I know you can. If you dare to try, dare to fail, dare to try again. And I'll hold your back. I know you will learn the things you don't know yet. And I will learn with you. I will learn from you too. We're in this development together, you and I. I know that you will succeed. I believe in you. And I'll be here for you, no matter what challenges or possibilities come your way. Isn't that exactly this kind of longing and need of mindset and attitude and behavior that all of us would like to get? That we need from a friend, from a colleague, from a manager. It's about leadership. And it's about parenting. Since lots of those things that I mentioned now develop when you become a parent, connecting to this kind of humble and conscious leadership needed, based on trust, empathy, compassion, the skills that Tomas was mentioning before. So what if it's not actually a new leadership that is needed, but more of new ways of identifying the inner leadership and consciousness and skills that many already have? Because parenting is useful at work, wherever you are. And that is a universal fact. It's not utopia, only possible here in Sweden with our history and legislation and so on. It is something that is useful regardless culture, country, business, role in the company, gender. With that said, it's also important to say that all are not parents to children, but all can relate to this if we start with this group, which is rather large in the world and in most workplaces. This is not to exclude non-parents, but if we want to create and develop a more inclusive and sustainable work life and world, it's good to put the lens on a concrete group, which is big in most companies and societies, and develop the kind of awareness and practical support and behaviors needed that will benefit all. So what if this is one of the ways of identifying these competences needed for social sustainability, for, I love this expression, the inner global goals. And I like the word capacities, because that is both the competence, skills, and mindset, attitudes, is inner awareness. This is what really makes me tick, core of my passion and belief. My name is Tiina Bruno. I have 3 kids. I'm mother of 3. That's always on top of my CV. I am an economist, a management consultant, and founder of the Parentsmart Employer initiative, supporting global and local companies and local consultants in different countries to get inspiration from Sweden and other countries and adapt both work with norms and practical support around working parents to local context, both regarding culture, norms, and government support and legislation. So by working with the Swedish Institute, the Swedish Foreign Ministry, and UN agencies, I've got the great opportunity to, during these last 10 years, travel around to different countries, from Eastern Europe countries to Japan, to really understand how could it be possible to talk about these things no matter where, and have it as something that unites us, to start talking about the things that are possible to talk around and work with, and start from that. So With this intro, I am not alone here today, even though I'm not at Klustered. It looks like that. I'm here in Stockholm, Täby, with this wonderful background. But I have four fantastic people at Klustered in a panel. One of them actually in Gothenburg. I will introduce them one by one and have small talks with them. And I want you to know that all of you are actually panels. So after each talk, I want you to feel free to put some comments, questions in the chat. Do that all the time, please. And also open up for your comments or talk to the panelists. We also have 10 minutes at the end for all to discuss together. So with that, I would like to say that from the beginning, this is not a possibility to finish everything you would like to talk about, because there's a lot to say about the things we're going to raise. But I would like to see it as a start of important dialogues that I hope that we will continue in different ways. So we connect to the MindShift seminar, 20th of November, as you heard. And during this day where we got great inspiration, and we got knowledge, we got a lot of examples. We want to make it even more concrete, more practical, and talk about how can you do it. So my track here as a host is one of the tracks lifting initiatives here at Klustered to see how we can do in practice. We will have different perspectives. At the MindShift seminar, we talked a lot about the inner arena for development and learning. And as Katarina at Spotify said there too, we need also time to zoom out and reflect and find those universal motivators. And I believe that maybe parenting is one of those. So it's both about focus out there and focus in here. So we'll try to cover this afternoon. And well, tech-wise, we are recording this, but we will also try to be as live as possible here. So just mute yourself when you're not speaking, and we'll open up for you several times here. So with that start, I maybe need to explain a bit about what Parentsmart actually means, because that is also the title of our webinar. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides and just tell you a short part of the Parentsmart story. When my kids were small like this, two questions popped up in my mind. The first one was connected to the things I've been talking about, that what if we talk more about the connection between parenting and leadership? Why don't we? So I posted an email with a question to 100 managers with kids and asked them about one concrete example of a parental skill that develops their leadership. And I got 80 amazing answers back, stories and examples within a week. So I decided to spread those stories, since I believe in role models and real examples, in a book called Parentsmart. It's in Swedish so far, 2010. That was one of the things that started me in my entrepreneurship. The other thing was a question. The second question was to a company, actually to the one of the biggest companies in Sweden, a global company. I had met Leif Johansson, who was at that time a CEO at Volvo, at a seminar a couple of weeks before. And I felt that many companies in Sweden call themselves parent-friendly or family-friendly, meaning that they gave a lot of help and support. But I meant something else. I meant also to show what you get back. So I just posted the shortest email I've ever sent to anyone, with one line in the subject, where I just wrote, "Is Volvo Parentsmart or only parent-friendly company?" And I got an immediate answer back, where he wrote personally that, "What is a Parentsmart company? Is it something that we could be? So many are parent-friendly now. It's like a hygiene factor to help. Can we do something more?" to be attractive and competitive. Can you come down and talk about this? So that was a start 10 years ago. Talking about this new leadership again, to be concrete in examples, I mean, competencies connecting to delegation, compassion, empathy, humility, trust, team building. As I said, these are skills and capacities developed in parenting, among with lots of other things. And actually, we should see parenthood as one of the best management courses you can get. So if we start thinking in this way and shift our thoughts about it, with an awareness of what parenting gives back to the company, what would happen then? That was a curiosity that built the model I work with today. But we need to talk about what companies get back in that case, to get engagement from both managers and employers on top levels in companies. So what is the ROI, the return on investment, supporting working parents, apart from all those skills? So it's competencies, but we also need to connect this to company vision and values, to business goals, to profitability, and talk about concrete KPIs. Wins connecting to attraction, to be an attractive employer, and other things. I'm going to show you here on the next slide. Companies tend to give formal support. They give things that are related to costs, like connected to time, money, routines, IT, and so on. These are in Sweden called föräldravänliga företag, parent-friendly, family-friendly companies. Not many work actively with the informal support, which is more with a focus on the wins and the ROI, the return on investment. That is something connected to working with attitudes, behaviors, leadership, the true belief in what will make it change. So role models is key. Top level role models, understanding and sending the message. And here I can actually add that Leif Johansson was also in the board of Ericsson at the time. And he told, I have a neighbor who worked at Ericsson then, and he said that Leif Johansson hadn't small kids 15 years ago, but he said that if I would have thought of parenting as an asset and not a burden at work, I would have taken paternity leave. So please do, all fathers in our company. And my Ericsson neighbor here, he did that because one top-level role manager said so. So to do both, and to do it all the way from pregnancy to grandparenthood, actually, is what I call to be Parentsmart or Föräldrasmart as an employer, manager, and employee. And this, I believe, could be one of the keys to a norm and mind shift needed right now. What's in it for you? If you're a manager, if you're a company, if you're a parent, or an employee who actually just really wants to make use of all resources you have in capacity. The impact levels are on the manager level, where it's about being a sustainable and inclusive manager, but also about concrete management tools motivating employees, not the least now, when so many are working remote from home, to see that this learning during the pandemic, for example, is a great management course at home, beside all the challenges that there are. It's wins and values on employee level, connected to health, engagement, motivation, self-confidence when you become pregnant. And on an employer level, connecting to the easiest to see and to follow, employer branding, to be an attractive company that retains their talent, and also be a sustainable company working with a whole life, make it possible to live a whole life. This in turn, if working from the bottom up with managers, companies, organizations adds to more gender equal sustainable societies and connects to the many of the SDGs, if we focus on the ROI, the return on investment, but also the return on inclusion, I would say. So with this slide, I would like to just end the examples, the concrete examples of what we talk about, why it's important and relevant for so many, and end with this picture I put on again. I mean, this is a matter of people finding their inner beliefs and convictions with concrete examples. So why don't we talk about it? I would like you now to just take a paper and pen. If you have, grab that. I'm going to stop sharing screen here. So can you just grab paper and pen and take just a moment? You don't need to post anything yet, but just take a moment and think about one skill or capacity outside work. Meaning if you're a parent, you pick a parenting skill. If you don't have kids, pick something else that you do outside work. Maybe you have a dog, you work and you train a football team, whatever. One skill outside work that is really key in your work. And just write that down. Yes. Now I would like to invite our first panel guest here to talk with me, Tomas, and let's see if we can have this in a panel view together. Sharing. Hi, Tomas. Now I see you. Hi. Yeah, great. Great, perfect. Now it feels like we're in the same room again. Hi. Listen, Tomas, there is so much we've been talking about that I want to talk about. It's difficult to prioritize, but if you just start with just short introducing yourself, because I'm not sure that all were at the big seminar too. Just a sentence about who you are, please.
Okay.
Send it to you.
I'm a parent.
Good.
Of 3 grown-up or almost grown-up children between 22 and 27. I'm a former investment banker and entrepreneur. Started about 20 different companies. But when I sold my banking business 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to use the second half of my life to really explore this area between our personal inner growth and development and societal change. And that was the reason why I started the Ekskäret Foundation 10 years ago. And then, as we said before, there has been a lot of initiatives around Ekskäret, both in Sweden and...
Hej Jimmy!
Hej, jag har en kort fråga till dig.
Ja.
Jag redigerar.
Ja.
Men,
Annika, mute.
Den här Kit Harris.
Ja.
Annika Dopping, mute, please. Thank you. Yeah. Welcome. It's an entrance. That's great. Yes. So you're the mother of Klustret Ekskäret, we heard before.
Yes. Mother or father?
Mother or father. Your mother and your father had 4 kids, right?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm going to start with the same question to all of you. Can you share one example of a parenting capacity, I start to say now, that is really useful in your work right now?
Yeah, so I think I want to, there are many different capacities, and I think I want to focus on one of these transformative capacities that I think is very essential for, not just as we said before, for us as individuals to be able to navigate and to survive and to thrive in this more and more complex world, but also necessary for us on a societal level to develop, and that is perspective taking, perspective seeking. And I think that being a parent.
No, I can't hear you, Tomas. Sorry.
Hear me now?
Now it's good. Yeah. Perspective taking.
We're trying a new microphone.
Oh,
yeah?
this is
Okay.
much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Perspective taking.
Yeah, perspective taking, and if we take an even broader look and not just look at parenthood, of course, when you are a child, a young child, everything is circulating around you. And when you become a little bit older, you start to realize that the view of your friends and of society of you is important, and you're starting to develop an outside perspective on yourself. But I think it's really when you become a parent that you are really going definitely outside the bubble of putting yourself and your own perspective first. Becoming a parent is for many people, I believe, the first time when actually somebody else in life becomes even more important than yourself. And that shift of perspective can really be developmental, and that can really help you to shift perspective, not just on yourself and on your family, but actually shift perspective on life. So having the experience of having children, which is of course both cognitively challenging, but also emotionally challenging, forces you more or less to grow as an individual and take on new perspectives.
Thank you. Actually, this is connecting to the example that I give myself when people ask me. I didn't start with that, but that is this perspective, because with children, it's so obvious that you don't know what they think or what you mean. You need to ask. You don't know what planet they are on. It's very often different than you think yourself. So thank you lots.
And also, I would add to that you start also to realize that when you ask your children, especially young children, the answer, you notice that they do not even know themselves.
Exactly.
Where they are and what
Yeah.
their perspective.
Yeah.
So it's more difficult than just asking them. You will have to really try to step into their shoes and know their perspective better than they do themselves.
Yes, change perspective.
Multi-level of perspective taking that you need to develop there, and you start to experience and you start to find out.
And how to make them take ours. I mean, I have a 17-year-old here. He is lots in his forebrain here right now, you know, the teenager who have difficulties with that. You, Tomas, you said at the MindShift webinar that, and you often say that we need to upgrade our capacities on a daily basis, and that we need to bring inner adult development to a large group now. There is a large group out there in the world. If we talk about parents, for example, not all are parents, as we said, parents to children, but with parenting, we mean this concrete example also relating to the behavior towards each other, towards ourselves, the leadership, the self-leadership, and actually behavior and mindset towards everything, towards our planet. If this could maybe be one of the examples of the daily development in caring and struggling, but Jennifer Garvey-Burgess, she said also that if you observe the children's development, you learn about yourself. We need to re-know now. So talking about growth that matters, the manifesto that the Ekskäret Foundation has developed with others, among all that may be developed now in, for example, parenting, what is the growth that matters most, according to you? Could you give some more concrete examples of leadership skills, of awareness of this capacity needed in the world right now that we could pick from parenting, for example?
No, I think that all of those clusters of capacities that I was mentioning during the introduction with Naima
Can you take them again? Because all were not there then.
Being able to stay open, even when the world becomes complex and you become stressed. So really practicing staying open, being able to take perspectives, more perspectives, and seeking perspectives, and becoming aware of your blind spots, and that you might even need other people to find more perspectives on aspects. Then it's the sense-making aspect, our capacity to move beyond the sense-making in terms of right and wrong, black and white, us and them, to start to make sense of the world in a much, much more deeper and more nuanced way. Then it's connecting to your inner compass, starting to listening to this inner voice, and to bring out the pen and start authoring your own life, and starting to sort of become less dependent on outside authority for your values and your worth and direction, and really find this inner direction, becoming that grounded in yourself that you can become inner directed, self-authoring. And then finally, it's the cluster of compassion, self-compassion, and empathy, and all of that. And I think that being parenthood actually pushes you to develop all these different clusters of transformative capacities. And I think I would like to stress that of all different developmental challenges and developmental environments that we are in, I think parenthood is quite special in the way that, yes, of course, we are challenged at work. We are challenged in other relationships and in other contexts. And this allowing ourselves to be challenged is very important for our growth. We need the right combination of safety and feeling secure to be able to open up and to allow ourselves to grow. But safety is not enough. You also need to have a certain amount of challenge. And I think in today's society, for many people, the most challenging situations might actually come in your family, because we have evolved the corporate culture so far that, at least in a good corporate setting, we are protecting each other to a certain extent, and we are not sort of going all the way out in our interpersonal challenges. But as all of us who have had children know, that is something that you can, of course, not avoid in a family setting.
No.
Being a parent can be extremely challenging. And of course, if you are safe enough to be able to handle that, then that is a source of development and growth. So I think we should be aware of the value of these challenging environments that families can be.
Yeah, because I mean, that is like the arena to fail and to try again and to dare to fail, but also to be humble enough. And that is where we connect to this conscious, humble leadership. As a parent, to not know best all the time. We learn so much from our children. And that is also something we sometimes forget. We're going to talk more about that with Heidi. But and you have also the island of Ekskäret with Protos, where we constantly learn from the youth out there, right? Too.
I would just mention also the dynamic of the family between the parents and the children. You also have the dynamic between the parents.
Yes.
And that's where it is so important that at the same time as we are parents, that we can also develop a deep relationship with our partner, so that we somehow can find the security and support in that relationship to be able to handle the challenges of parenthood. And of course, that is the good dynamics. In a bad case, all of this interacts and can have a negative spiral as well. But we should be aware of that there are many dynamics in parenting, not just parent-child, but also the partner.
That's very true, and good that you point out. And I also sometimes get the question, that do all parents develop good things and become great leaders? And I normally answer that all parents don't develop all those things. I mean, I have around 90 different competences in the book I wrote, but they always develop something. But we need to be aware of what happens. And so thank you so much, Tomas. I would like to let one or two comments in from you, the rest of the panel. I mean, both the panel are clustered and the audience we have. So let's try to see if we can have in a gallery view here and look, or the ones who unmute themselves and just comment what you heard. We're going to talk more about competencies, but with these bigger perspectives Tomas had, any comments or questions from the rest of you?
I just want to say I'm really moved to hear you. This is what I need to hear. It was a long time that I saw you last, and since we met, Tomas, I have 3 children, so they're really small. 1 6-year-old and twins that are 3 years old. And so challenges are every day dealing with this incredible mess, and it's a great and supportive perspective to think how I'm learning myself as I'm trying so much to support their learning.
Yeah,
I'm very moved.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Another one? Someone else?
Something that touched me when you spoke, Tomas, was about the importance of the teamwork with a partner, or if you have an extended family, the teamwork. And what came to me was also that parenting taught me about change that is inevitable when one wants to freeze those moments of total beauty and love with that little baby, and then in 3 months it's another human being, and it's not possible to stop the time. It's just embrace change, and that's something very important as well, a quality to be able to handle in life in general.
Thank you so much, Maria Paz. And I'm going to continue now. We have more time to talk. You get the scene all the time here. Thank you so much, Tomas. This was very valuable for us all.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite Heidi up there beside you. I think you're in the same room, aren't you?
Hello.
Hi, dear.
Hi.
So nice to talk to you again. Heidi, could you just please also just short introduce yourself first? And you could add, as I did with Tomas, one parenting skill or capacity, we say now, that really is useful in your work, your focus that you have.
Absolutely. So I have been teaching mindfulness and resilience skills in Sweden for about 15 years. Being able to both be in companies and then also working with private people. I've been working as a therapist, and now I'm sitting here at Ekskäret, working with what I call is inner sustainability. So that's kind of the background that I'm coming from. And then in sharing one of the skills, I can tell a little story. So I'm also a mother of 3. I have 3 daughters, and then my husband has 2 daughters. So we have 5 daughters. And up until recently, we had 5 teenage daughters. So it's been really an interesting experience in leadership and self-mastery. But when my children were smaller, there was a Friday night when I had picked them all up from school. We had no food at home. It was like dark and miserable outside. And of course, I dragged them all to the grocery store because we need to buy some food. And we get in there and I'm like trying to get this stuff. And at that time, my youngest was 3 and she laid down on the floor and completely had a meltdown, in the grocery store, screaming her head off. And I'm like, my whole body is just like shame. Everyone's going to think I'm a horrible mother. And then the other two start whining because I'm like, okay, here, just take this, right? I give her something. Well, we want one too. And I'm like completely ready to have a meltdown on them. And it kind of, it like hit me of like, oh my gosh, you know, I want them to behave in a way that I can't even do myself because I'm so frustrated right now. I have low blood sugar. I'm, you know, we're tired. And it was like one of those moments that I still so clearly remember having this understanding, both of going into their perspective and learning like empathy, compassion, perspective shift, ownership, that basically it was my responsibility. You know, it wasn't their fault that they're falling apart. It was my responsibility. Just to really allow them from their skill sets, you know, to see them for who they really are and not needing them to be something else. So I feel like, you know, maybe that was a lot of different things, but I really feel like in so many situations that I've been in my own parenting, that I gained so many different skills of learning to stay present with difficulty, being able to manage like agility. Talk about working in a complex, crazy, you know, that is like that's parenting.
Yeah, that it is. Or we could go on and go on, and that is what happens actually. You know, when I come to dinner and just people ask me what I work with, they start talking, and that is so interesting and great because it's actually a very simple question. The first one I posed there, as I showed. So Heidi, at the MindShift seminar in November, Selina Milstam from Ericsson, she said that we need a safe space for development and intimacy between each other, and be curious about where to find the competencies and learnings needed now. We have, and we have been talking about different aspects of this. And Peter Senge, he said that inner, I think this is interesting, inner does not always mean individual, it is inherently collective. We don't want to increase an individualistic perspective. The real shifts we are interested in are inner and collective. So the question, what does it look like out there, I would ask you, but actually more, what does it look like in there, in people right now, and, you know, safe space or whatever. Can you please tell me what you see or think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's you know, I love that way that Peter Senge put it, you know, that it's inside of us, but it's a collective. And if I take that one first, you know, I think a really great example of that is when I first moved to Sweden, people do this thing where they're all out in the woods and they've got these maps and they're like running around, and then you can have like you have a grandparent, you've got little kids, and I didn't know what orienteering was at that point. And I found it so fascinating how this was a collective, but it was also highly individual. They learned all the different skills through growing up in that. That became the arena for all these different capacities for growth, but also for creating safety and normalcy in something, or an easier way to learn. So from that, one of the things that I see is really helpful as a parent that we can take into our work is, you know, the people that we're surrounded with, using the collective to take this individual thing and put it into the collective. And it's so much easier to grow those skills when we are in a collective. So when we're a parent, my children are more interested in who I am individually than what I say. Right?
Yes.
And it's the same kind of like being, the more that we are fully aware of what this possibility is, it raises our capacity to develop these different skills. Just like being aware of them really does make a huge difference of what's possible for us. And then the other one that you mentioned, you know, what does it look like out there? Well, I mean, I think that Eric spoke about this, you know, he spoke about this last week, but that, you know, a year ago, it was approximately 10% of the people in Sweden that felt depressed or having a difficult time. And now it's up to 30%. So we know that people are having a huge problem with isolation, with frustration, with feeling a huge amount of anxiety, stress, and fear. And so on the individual, and actually we can see it on collective, there's a lot more abuse in the homes going on. I mean, there's a lot more because of this huge pressure that we're under because of COVID right now. So what can we do about that? What do we have as skills? And I see parenting and the family actually as one of the greatest possibilities for learning resilience skills. So resilience, the capacity not just to bounce back, but to actually grow. Actually, the Stockholm Resilience Center uses the definition of resilience as the capacity to adapt to new situations and grow. And it's the perfect, Maria Paz actually shared like what she shared. That was one of the things I was going to share also, that how, you know, when we have to learn to be so adaptive to chaos and change and be totally present to be able to actually see our children for who they are. And it's like John Kabat-Zinn, the man who started researching and looking at mindfulness, he says that our children are like small Zen masters. They really give us an amazing opportunity for looking inside of ourselves and learning to be totally present in chaos. What an amazing skill, right? That we need not only in our homes, in society, in work. I mean, these things, there's like, we're completely interconnected. And the reality is the person that we are at home, we take to our work with us. So being conscious about creating these resilience skills and that they're already a part of parenting that is really about parenting ourselves. You know, I mean, it's really parenting ourselves, allowing our children it to be a two-way road of development, where it's not just me sharing my knowledge, but actually growing myself through having to do things that are hard, go outside my comfort zone. I think that totally describes parenting.
And it connects to these things that we talked about in the beginning, to this humble leadership developed at home there, that I don't need to know everything. I learn together with you. I'm here beside you. I want to learn from you too, to learning from our children, but still keep this parenting, not ponderous, but you know, the same as in leadership, to create safety for the ones we support. So that is exact same balance too. Thank you. Thank you very much. So what skills do we need to do this more, to do this together with children? How can we now, when we are many also in this fear mood, not only the teenagers, but parents too at home, how can we get access in our brain to this this state of mind to be present at home with your children? Short. I mean, I know you can talk for an hour about this, and we will. I invite you all to do that another time. But short, Heidi, please.
Okay. So first, one more thing, reflecting back to MindShift that happened a couple of weeks ago, but a reminder that between 90 and 95% of what we experience and think and are actually projections from our past, socialization, from inherited, that we're projecting into the situation around us. And so when we are having an experience of not feeling safe, that is actually, to start to question our own thoughts, to start to question, when I'm feeling frustrated, if we're looking directly at our parenting skills, right? Feeling this frustration, or things should be a different way, the children should be a different way, I should be a different way, and starting to question that. So really opening up to creative questions, and knowing that, there's a good chance that this might not be the full total situation, the clarity of, that there's more to the situation going on. And that's a perspective shift. So that is a huge in helping us to feel safe, because our brains get completely taken over by our lizard brain, right? Our amygdala. In any situation where we feel threatened, and especially right now, we're threatened all the time. So to create safety at home, just that awareness is going to start to change the way that I feel inside myself. And any parent knows how I am is reflected in my family. It is completely, my children feel when I'm present and when I'm not present. Again, when one of them was younger, I'd start to do something else and she'd take my hand and, Mama, you're not listening,
Yes. They show us how, if we let them. Thank you, Heidi. Heidi, we also connect back here to what Tomas emphasized too, with this perspective shift that we need to have, and that home is actually a very good arena to try that also in a safe but maybe not safe place. So thank you very much. I think one or two comments from the rest of our panel, the participants here in our room. Someone wants to comment this that Heidi has been talking about, the inner space and how to do this together in presence at home.
Maybe I can add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, very interesting discussions. And what popped up in my mind is, and what both of you are also saying is a lot of times we have to calibrate and recalibrate our internal voice, what we are doing and how we should react. And I think it connects very well to the overall how mindful we are in our roles, and not being as role models at home, but also we take this outside our homes as well, not being as parents, but also as individuals. So I think it's more like you have to recalibrate all the time. And I really agree with the experience that you shared, Heidi, with your daughter. I think a lot of times, in my case, I have another challenge because I'm raising a second culture kid. We are from Pakistan. I'm living in Sweden, and I experience this, I think, on a daily basis, like 1,000 times. How my Pakistani parent self would react and how a Swedish parent would react. And my kids are living in Sweden, so I have to adapt and calibrate all the time. So I think I'm way beyond outside my comfort zone most of the time.
So congratulations. You're learning quick.
Yeah, I have to.
So Heidi, actually, you know what, all participants, we didn't say that in the beginning. Please share your takeaways from every talk we have here in the panel in the chat. But just add what you'd bring with you, what thoughts came up, something, and we'll save it and share it with you too afterwards. Now we would just like everybody to stand up a little bit. Can we say that, Heidi, as a break?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say two things. One is the woman that spoke earlier, having the small twins. So I have twins also. One more thing that's so important to remember, that nothing is constant. You know, Rilke has this amazing, he wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, you know, experience everything, beauty and terror. No feeling is final. And that parenting as well as life, no feeling is final. And that's such something that comes up, it's so strong, it's so painful, it feels like it's never gonna stop. And reminding ourselves of that is an amazing capacity to bring into, you know, our families, but also into life in general. So, and treating yourself with a huge amount of compassion, that this is hard stuff, right? Parenting is really hard. And it's the absolute most, you know, it's the best way to grow resilience. And that we can then, you know, it's like got the ripple effect. We do it for ourselves, we teach compassion, our families get it, and we can take that into society. And then I wanted to bring and offer a challenge, something really concrete that everybody can go home and do. So that this isn't just like a good idea, but that we actually get to practice it. And it is about perspective shift. So really seeing from our children's perspective what we look like. Like the next time that you're really frustrated, angry, and you can do this both at work, like so that you have that experience of, I mean, we're not at work, most of us, we're at home all the time now, but you know, the looking from, even if they're smaller than you are, or from there, you know, I used to do this with my children, and they would say that I had this like angry wolf face on, you know, and seeing, well, from their perspective, what am I sharing? What is it that I'm expressing? So anyway, so that could be something that can be a really active way of engaging in this perspective shift. Yes, and now we get to all stand up.
Yeah, so let's just take 1 minute or two, right? Heidi, you guide us just to, you know, 40 minutes we've been sitting now. I've been standing, I don't know.
It's actually really, really fun. Since I've been teaching a lot, I was really curious in like understanding, you know, how we best can take in information. And they say that we have focus for about 40 45 to 48 minutes max. So at least every 45 to 48 minutes, we really need to stand up. So everybody has to stand up, put your arms in the air, and then yawn. And pretend nobody's watching you. So yawning, we're actually resetting our brain, getting back into our prefrontal cortex so we can take in information. So stretch, stretch. So fun to have this conversation. And I look forward to questions and things like that at the end.
Thank you so much. And now I invite Johan Holm to stand or sit on the chair you have there. Hi, Johan.
Thank you. Hi. So let me see. Just give me a moment. I think I need to. I'm operating the computer at the same time.
Okay, so
I think this
do the spotlight view here.
this is maybe what it's like to be a parent. You have to do two things at the same time.
Yeah, simultaneous capacity. Yeah.
It's maybe it's in a way like what Robert Keegan talks about. Is we need to do two works. One is I'm trying to do it now just to keep it up as if everything is working fine, but it's not. Because I'm not able to spotlight myself, but maybe you're spotlighting. Now we're spotlighted, so it's working. All right, so let's get back to see if I can be me, myself here.
You can be me, myself, and I.
Yes.
Welcome, Johan. Nice to see
much.
you again. It was a long time ago.
Yes. To see you again. It seems like we're in the same room.
Yes, we are, but you see that my light is a bit more sunnier than clustered light.
Yeah.
So a couple of words of who you are, and also one parental skill or capacity that is really valuable for you and your work, your focus now.
All right, thank you. So I'm a father of three. I have an 18-year-old son, a 16-year-old son, and a 10-year-old daughter. And I'm from Stockholm, Sweden. And I have like a two-legged background, both in science and technology, but my main focus has always been behavioral sciences and social sciences and organizational psychology and so forth. And I've been been working as a director at youth camps for young people. I've been working with starting a co-founded and branding agency actually together with my father, which is a very special relationship since he lost his father when he was 8-year-old. And our relationship has been very, very valuable to both of us actually. And so we ran this branding agency during the 90s, and I was in charge of the digital strategies during the first digitization wave with the internet. And in a way, we thought we'd figured it out, but we didn't know anything compared to where we live now. So, and then in the last 20 years or so, I've been focusing mainly on organizational development, transformation, and working both with individuals and teams and organizations, focusing on organizations contributing to sustainable development and helping them succeed in that.
Thank you.
I'm doing my best.
The parent skill, capacity. What is most useful in all that I know you do so many different things now. What is most useful from your parenting? Yeah,
well, I think it's hard to say in a way. I was thinking a lot about it going forward here. I just want to start in one way. I was 18-year-old when I had the first leadership training. I was training the others. I was teaching them about group development and conflict resolution, and we had these dramas, playing role play and things. And in a way, I thought I'd figured it out. Leadership is all about staying calm and holding space.
Yes.
And then I became a parent. I realized it was much more complicated than that. And as I think I recognized in what Saman was saying, becoming a parent to me has been challenging. I had to leave my comfort zone. I've felt insufficient. I've lost my temper. I've learned things about myself that I didn't think, both good things, but also things I don't really want to see from time to time, being a parent. So I've learned a lot about myself. And I also want to say with Magdalena, I was touched by you also, by this, to me at least, I don't know if that's where you were, but the sense of being insufficient, not having control. No matter where I am, I'm not doing enough. It's trying to balance all these things in life, and in a way accepting that that's the way it is. Things can't be perfect, and I can't be perfect in every situation. So
it's hard training in good enough levels, parenting. Listen, at the seminar in November at MindShift, our colleague Caroline Stjernstedt-Salbom and others said that workplaces are one of the arenas for adult development. I mean, it's connected to the growth that matters, manifest, and so on. But now we also talk about different structures and institutions. And as Tomas and Naima talked about before here, we have university schools, we have workplace, we also have the family now, we talk about here. Right now, the workplace and home is the same for very many during the pandemic when you work from home. Maybe you have kids around, homeschooling, as in some countries too, and here in Sweden now too, from Monday for some. What do you think? What does it look like? How are actually workplaces changing, and what needs to be adapted now? What is needed now and forward? Because now everything is a mix and together, but it's also a way of less throwing everything up and getting it down in the right pattern afterwards. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think this morning we were having this conversation with a client, and they were trying to focus on the future, on the long run, but they realized that there's so many obstacles connected to working on a distance, people working at home, and not really getting this to work in the way that they want. So I guess very much now has to do with figuring out ways of how can we find close working relationships, good working relationships, where we can both have the psychological safety needed, but also, as both Amy Edmondson and Robert Keegan says, we also need the accountability. So we need the combinations of both. So it's not just about psychological safety, but it's also about accountability. Mm-hmm. So the challenging of finding this creative space where we can grow and learn when we're not meeting, not able to meet in the same room. And what I've learned from working during this very special year with different organizations, it seems that we have had very steep learning curves. Is to get most ordinary meetings, how can we get them to work with Zoom or Skype or Teams or whatever? But the big challenge seems to be the more informal social connections. So how can we make sure that we feel connected and being part of the workplace even though we're not there? So that seems to be the very big challenge now. And we know that approximately half the population, they actually find it a mainly positive experience working from home. It gives you the autonomy, work-life balance becomes much easier. And some people also feel much more efficient when they're working at home. But the other half are having negative experiences. And I think Erik Fernholm mentioned on the MindShift event of November 20th, he said that we've gone from 10 to approximately 30 or more than 30% of people showing symptoms of depression. So I think this is really, really important work that we all have to do, is to foster our relationships and thinking about who didn't I talk to lately and connect to each other in this more informal way. Because I think, and both as managers and co-workers. So I think I'd say that's one of the parts that are the big challenges that we're facing, so that we don't lose people. They need to be included. As Heidi also was mentioning before when we were talking about neuroscience, being included is the most important one of the most important basic needs that we have. Otherwise we'll get into this fight or flight mode, and our nervous system will be working all the time, and we can't really relax and be creative. So.
And I'm also thinking about, when I listen to you, Johan, about this, the airplane, we all know about to put the mask on yourself first before you help your children. I mean, all managers now both struggling with themselves and their own physical, psychological health, both often when you're also standing still or sitting still, always, how to support themselves first to be able to support and have dialogues with the others, their employees, but also children. How can managers cope with this, actually, in these new workplaces that they are maybe for long now? We don't know how long.
Well, there are many ways of answering the question, but from my perspective, where I'm just right now, I think that we're stuck in the perception of the ideal of what a manager should be and what a manager should do. And I think there's too much of being a parent to my coworkers in the idea of what a manager is to. So I think what we're learning now is that we need to be on the same level. So it's adults to adults. Yes. And not, in that sense, not taking responsibility for other people's lives and emotions and ambitions and competencies and things, but creating environments where we all can grow together. And I think this year, I've been in many conversations where we have all been, I mean, being a consultant, I'm hired as an expert, but there's so many things that I don't know. So it's so many meetings that we've tried to figure out how to work digitally on a distance that I have to go in and just say, this is what I've learned, but this is what I don't know. Yes. And is there anybody in this meeting who can help me figure this out?
Yeah, I agree.
Talking on the same level to each other, I think that's at least what I meet. When manager just release this whole idea that's actually from several hundred years old about what a traditional manager should be doing, and more leveling, bringing in, inviting and helping and letting people grow into the creative human beings that they actually are. So that could be at least one thing to do, not take on too much responsibility for others.
This humility, and the conscious leadership. Thank you. Thank you very much, Johan. This was interesting. I love talking to you. And any comments? Anyone who wants to comment on the things that popped up in you when we listened to Johan? We just gather all your chats. It's wonderful how much you write here. So write or just comment in the view. We take one here together with you on the floor, with us on the floor, maybe. Somebody wants to comment?
Maria Pass, it seems.
Yeah, Johan, I found that your example was such a great example of how it is to parent oneself in this new kind of situations, to take responsibility for the own growth. And that's the skill we learn if we integrate that back to ourselves. How do we take care of ourselves? And in that, just flow with others.
Thank you very much, Maria Paz. It's the self-leadership that we, and how to help others with self-leadership of themselves. So a very quick and fast leadership training right now, meaning being less leaders, maybe in another way. Thank you. Now we're going to invite our last panel guest here. Thank you so much, Johan. I continue with you.
Thank you.
Katarina is in Gothenburg. Katarina Matson at Volvo Cars in Gothenburg. Let's see how we can shift to you.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. And thank you for such inspiring discussion so far. I'm writing.
That's great. Can I get it afterwards?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Katarina, we have had many interesting conversations this special year here, actually.
Yeah.
We met in the diversity charter circumstances, actually. But why I chose you to come here was because I really believe in real examples, in concrete examples from everyday life, and we're talking about action, how to do it. So when I learned about how Volvo Cars is doing in practice to support working parents, I think it's very interesting and important to share that. Me and my team are constantly identifying, developing, sharing stories and real examples. And the dream we actually have is to have a world map where you can look at different examples in different countries and actually understand that we have so much in common. If we start with the things that we have in common, like, for example, why? What do we win in terms of? So when you do things, because you're a global company,
yes.
Please just, as the others, introduce short who you are, your role in the company, and one parenting skill capacity that you use in your work.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Katarina Matson is my name. And I'm right now responsible for driving our corporate culture, inclusion and diversity within Volvo Cars. And yes, we are a global company. We have around 40,000 employees, 3 home regions, you could say, Europe, with the Sweden as, of course, the heart and the core of, and where it all started, but also China and Americas. So we are really becoming a true global company, and I've been in the company for quite a few years, actually. Talking about parenting and the capacity that I've learned from that, I can just agree with the others that there are many things that I've learned, but I think that also what I can bring to my working life is trying to be an empathic listener. It's very easy to go into solving mode and to be the problem solution, but actually to just listen to what my children are saying, and then trying with, you know, my open and coaching questions to make them to get to the results themselves, or to try and test and figure out. And that is very useful at work as well, because I think, especially right now in the world we live in, with everything is so fast, that we don't stop and we don't listen as actively, as empathic as we should. But with your children, they will, like Heidi said, they will point you in the right direction if you're not present. So you will know exactly if you're not giving them their full attention. So I think that is one of many of the learnings, of course, with being a parent and being a mother. So I have 2 children, 1 son and 1 daughter, and then my husband has 2 children, 1 son and 1 daughter. So we have 4 children, and constant learning from them, of course.
Katarina, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that with the listening and the posing questions to understand and so on, because you're also, I mean, you have a global role in your company, and I'm thinking about all the people you meet in your work in all the countries all over the world that have different cultures and understandings of things that you
absolutely
use that probably.
Yes.
So you won the Swedish Golden Pacifier 2017 Volvo Cars. It's an award from a ranking that is done of one of our Swedish trade unions. Why did you win that? So please tell me, and I ask you to prioritize, but difficult, but examples, concrete examples of how you support working parents and why you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really had to go back and find what they wrote to us in the nomination and why we had the award. And I think that we have been, I mean, we are a very people-centric and human-centric company. And I think we have seen quite early on that we have very many loyal and engaged employees, and family life is, of course, a big part of your life as an individual. And if we want to keep our employees loyal and motivated and engaged, we have to make sure that they can also combine this working life with a family life in the best possible way. And I think that many of us, especially in Sweden, have seen the benefits and the learnings of having parents working. I mean, there are so many, and we have talked about that. Then, of course, we as a company has to be sure that we set up very clear guidelines, how we view this, and that we were quite early on with the work-life. We called them that at that time modern work-life guidelines. And I think that has helped us now, for example, when everybody are working from home, that we were quite early on with making sure that you can do that in a dialogue with your manager, and you can find a way to make it work for you in your daily life. We have had very good guides for managers and employees, what to think of when you have an employee becoming a parent, both before, during, and after. And also working a lot with making sure that in no way should you be hindered or discriminated when it comes to, you know, salary reviews, merit reviews, performance reviews, all of that, or even getting noticed if there is notified if there is a good new job opening for you, even if you are on parental leave. You should have the same opportunity as every other else in the company to apply for a job and to get the job. So I think that we have worked really hard with that in Sweden and come a long way. There's more to do all the time, of course, but this mindset is now then also helping us to push this outside Sweden as well, as you know.
So if I pose this question to you that I actually think is hardest to get myself, when I have been abroad in different countries, they often ask me, so what do you win? How much do you earn? I'm an economist. We have been trying to develop Parentsmart Index and look at KPIs and so on. But if you have a manager in a country where this is really something that we have never been investing in before, what do you say then?
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of return on both in investment and inclusion, I must say. But for example, we see that in countries where it's mostly the mothers that stay home, and in countries where you don't have any or very little parental leave offering from the government or the company, you tend to lose out on great competence, because a lot of women, they don't return to the labor market. And then you have spent time on hiring a person and developing a person, and then you lose this person, and you have to then do the job again with hiring a new person. And that is very, very costly, both from, a financial perspective, but also the time that you lose when you lose a very good and competent candidate. So that's just one very, I think, financial return on investment to think about. But then, of course, coming back to then, if you are an employer that clearly states that we believe in you, we want the best for you, we want to invest in you, you will, of course, get engagement and motivation and loyalty in return. And I also think that you will get some employer branding on top of that, because if you have happy employees, they tend to speak highly about you to your neighbors, or on Glassdoor, or to the outside world.
Yeah, and there you also come to something that is important, I think, because often in all marketing and branding and so on, the things that you hear from your friends in the pub or whatever are much more valuable than the things you read on posters or in ads. So the true examples of how they are also met by managers and the attitudes that I know that you have developed, I think that is also one of the parts that you got this award, because there was employees also telling how they perceive you as an employer. Thank you, Katarina. This is so interesting. Well, time goes fast. Now we actually would be very interesting to hear some others speak here now, I think. Don't you think too? I'm going to continue talking with you. We're actually going to do another diversity charter session in February, maybe, right?
Yeah.
With Gothenburg, but as things are now, we could have more, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's do like this. I would actually like to know now, if we take a gallery view here and then have a look at who we have here in our room, and please put in the chat what country you come from, because I think we have some different countries here. And if you're in Sweden, what city you are from. Start with that, and we'll change to gallery view so we see all of you. And you can, let's see here, Gothenburg, Sweden. That was you, Katarina. Denmark, Gothenburg. Visby, Sweden. Vancouver, Canada. Glasgow, Scotland. Chisinau, Moldova. Union, Sweden. Belarus. Yeah, Kosovo. Thank you, Priscina. Born in Romania, lived in US, and now in Solna. Thank you, Stockholm. Well, great to have diversity here. Different perspectives, talking about perspectives. That is the red thread we have all through this webinar, isn't it? Born in Chile, live in Stockholm. Yeah, Maria Paz. So let's see you all. see if I can shift to gallery view with all of you. Now let's open the floor. Actually, you know, you wrote on a paper before the parenting skill capacity or another capacity outside work that is really valuable for you in the focus and work you do or in your leadership. The panel is so nice there. Can I maybe see the three of you? You can talk. Your comments and thoughts together and to each other's perspectives here too. I'll leave the floor for you too. And then just feel free to pop in, the rest of you, the panel in Belarus and Kosovo and Gothenburg and everywhere. And Eva here now too, I see. Great. Okay, I'll leave to the panel, Fleur.
I think I just want to share now quickly, has something to do with developing as a leader myself here at Klustret and realizing on how do we manage a self-organizing organization and how do we get that going and get everybody's engagement, creativity and involvement and commitment into this. And I think I want to turn to you, Heidi, because I think I've learned a lot from you in our conversations during this and how we get this to work. Because you've said that as a parent, you need to tell the children, give them chores to do, things to do at home and tell them what you expect from them and make sure that they deliver on it because that will build their self-esteem. And I think you've helped me learn that. So that'd be both as a parent, but also as a leader here at Klustret. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, well, cool. Yeah. That's great. Absolutely. You know, I think it's actually something that I find really interesting how if we look at our parenting, like when you look at meditation, when you're in a meditation, everything that comes up, if it's restlessness, frustration, or all these things, it's always a mirroring of our daily life. And I feel like family life is the same, like being a parent, you know, whatever is going on in our bigger world, it shows up in our families, in our parenting. And so it's even more important to be really aware of, you know, who are we being? Who do we want to show up as? And that's not always such an easy thing, right? I mean, we have these lofty ideas, but really trying to be both authentic in who we really are, while still being vulnerable at the same time. And something that I've really learned here at Klustret is about, you know, honoring our vulnerability. And honoring it, not letting it, you know, go all over the place, but still allowing that to be fully who we are. And in the same way as parenting, it's so easy to put on like a parenting jacket. Like now I'm the parent, right? And we do that at work. Well, now I'm the leader. And I feel like just something that's been really unique is there is no jacket. It's like we're all authentic. We're here with our vulnerabilities, our difficulties, and again, a fantastic skill that we can both develop at home. You know, to say, well, when I'm wrong or I've made a mistake, and this is something I need to do perhaps differently. Can you relate to that, Tomas, in any way?
No, absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. So absolutely. And just another thought from my side here. I think that this session today has really made me aware of the developmental potential of the family. So we have previously been talking about starting with Robert Keegan's concept of a deliberately developmental organization. And then we moved that on to a deliberately developmental community. And then we are talking about the way that our Scandinavian countries 100 years ago were really deliberately developmental societies. So now I have one more to talk about, and that is how can we actually become self-aware and start talking about a deliberately developmental family. So our family is actually a deliberately developmental family. And that, of course, entails not just having a developmental focus on our children, but really seeing the whole dynamic in the family and how we all develop in the family. So if someone wants to write a book on how to be a deliberately developmental family, I think that will be a bestseller. Thank you.
Let's do that, Tomas. Actually, Tomas, I mean, the Parentsmart book needs to be revised. Things have been happening during 10 years. And I think I love that Johan also says, I mean, leadership, parenting, we need to view these things in a different way. So, but I think that it shouldn't just be written by one or two. I actually could share the dream I've had during 10 years of entrepreneurship, but also the really strong belief and goal I have that this needs to be a kind of movement where we gather stories, examples, and ideas from many now, and from many countries and many companies and so on, to exchange best practice and see in that way also that we take all those words about inclusion and sustainable work life and so on down to earth and action and practice, and talk about how to do it in the daily life, as you also talked about. So a co-creation of a book would be a dream. I think it's a really high time to do that. Maria passed thumbs. Anyone else, please? Yeah, we have comment. Karin from Canada. We talked the other day here in a pod that you made. What do you think when you hear what you heard today?
Yeah, sorry, I've had some technical challenges. That's why I keep on switching off my video. It's been really fascinating to hear so many different perspectives, and being here in Canada, like, you know, hearing from an employer's point of view, what really can be done, and to look at it in a positive way, what additional contributions parents can bring, and how it is also a branding opportunity as well as a cost reduction by not having to retrain people, because people will stay instead of having to, you know, drop out. So there has been, you know, it's been very fascinating. So I really appreciate it. And, like, you know, allowing me to think about my own parenting skills that I have learned and how I can use them in the professional world. So thank you.
Great. We also have, Kat Cooney would like to come in. There.
Thank you, Tiina. So I'm Kath. I'm speaking to you today from Scotland. Recently living in Sweden. I'm a mother of 3 children, 1 at university and 2 in the workplace. And fascinating discussion. And I'd like to just go back on a couple of points that Johan and Katarina raised in me. I'm in Scotland. We moved to remote working in March. So we've been working uninterrupted from our homes. I've been managing people in my team have young families. So it really brought all of that kind of the white heat reality of people having intense jobs, managing a pandemic, and the family running around in the background. And one of the key leadership skills that I would identify is trust, and really feel that people feel trusted to do what they can when they can do it, not measure what they do hours, and not having people feel they have to do work at 10 o'clock at night. So allowing that, and then people go in that space when you feel that trust and that you're allowed to do it. And the other thing is, Robert Keegan in that short clip was saying about, you know, do you have an inner journey, and can you reveal that at work? And what I've noticed is that those conversations have become deeper. Even though we're not in the same room, actually this digital space has intensified people revealing the inner part of themselves as they're in their challenges as a human being. So there's a strange kind of paradox there of remoteness, but actually increasing intensity and awareness of that inner journey, doing that collectively and being in that space. And I think it's been wonderful. That's been one of the silver linings in the pandemic. Though we're all longing to be together, actually the conversations have become more real because people's mental health has been changed, their capacities. So they're saying about the transition has been accelerated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kath. I see that I also here have actually people working with me into very exciting UN projects, both UNFPA in Belarus. We have Taisha here, and we have Olga from UNFPA in Moldova. Do you have any comments about what you heard now? We talk almost every day, but did this add anything? What is your takeaway? Taisha. Belarus. You just need to unmute, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm from Belarus. I'm expert on social entrepreneurship and business entrepreneurship. And we are working with Tiina in Minsk to implement Parentsmart Employer concept in Belarus, and it was a good idea to invite me. It was amazing event, and thank you very much for your invitation. And I heard a lot of good ideas during this event, and I hope we can implement this idea in Belarus together with Tiina. Tiina, you are brilliant.
Thank you. Olga, Moldova, your beautiful water behind. Any short comment, and then we will close this room and go back soon.
Yes. Thank you very much, Tiina. I was very privileged to be part of this event and hearing so many inspirational ideas and experiences shared. What you mentioned at the beginning actually applies to Moldova, because we have been looking up to the Swedish utopia and how we could translate it into a completely different socioeconomic reality. You know, we are orphans in an orphan country, I would say, because we've been experiencing a very hard transition from a very paternalistic Soviet state to a very aggressive new capitalistic free market, and the adaptation needs to be so quick, and the business has been developing very rapidly and very aggressively and in an atmosphere of uncertainty. So I think this is the problem of our business community and why family-friendly policies have not been really implemented in the country. It's because we live in uncertainty, in fear, in an environment full of threats. So long-term planning and long-term investment in family-friendly workplaces has not been a priority, and we are looking for innovative ways with your support and with the support of Parentsmart of how to convey the message to the business community of how it is a really sustainable long-term investment. And even if numbers cannot really be estimated in advance, investing in people, in a reliable, loyal team is the most certain and the most fruitful business move one can make. And this is what we will be trying to implement with your support over the next 2 years.
And also
Thank
the
you
important
again.
thing, Olga, I think that you're also working with the government development, how government and the private sector needs to go together. Listen, we need to stop now, dear friends. I think this was so amazing. I'm so happy to have had this talk with you, to have this wonderful panel there. Heidi, Johan, Tomas, thank you a lot, such illustrate. I wish I was in your room. I am actually in times of this, well, I have actually 2 COVIDs here at home. That's why I can't be live at Klistret, but they're fine, my husband and my son. But this is also very nice to feel that, well, from quarantine in 3 weeks now, I feel really like also traveling around to all the countries. So happy. I am overwhelmed and thankful. Let's start a movement. Even Corona can't stop me now, and we'll do even more with all you together, right? So just put something more in the chat if you want to, or write to me you can look at the website, Parentsmart Employers, or connect with me in LinkedIn, Tiina Bruno with 2 I's, and just write comments afterwards. We'll do documentation and send it to all of you with also my slides and some quotes and everything during next week. Thank you all. Now you're going to go back to the big room, the main room, the ones to do that. And you just go back to the program web link that you were in before. So we close this room and you go back to the MindShift InterAction program web. If anyone has a question, I stand here for a while and put the link in the chat. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Mute yourself and I'll see you all here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.